JaackMaate, ImAllexx, Alfie Deyes and me all in one room. What could possibly go wrong? Well, to be honest, if the room was YouTube, I would say quite a lot, and I think the last month has really shown that. In the last few weeks, obviously, we have had an infamous podcast, we've had Twitter spats, we've had videos, and obviously, we have had live streams where a few people got a little bit upset, and obviously, the most important thing that's come out of this entire situation is the fact that in the original podcast, I was around 2 stone fatter than I am currently. So, Alfie, if you want to re-record it, I'm always about. Or, you could just, delete the video altogether or just crop me out of it. Right, so jokes aside, as you've probably realised, today we're going to finally be talking about the podcast that I did around a month ago with Alfie Deyes and a good friend of mine, ImAllexx. Personally, I have so many thoughts and opinions regarding this situation, and I just want to get them all out in this video. And a few people may be wondering, well, why am I making this video now, a month after the situation? The views would have been better back then, and yeah, the views probably would have been better, but I do have an actual reason. But now I think about it, the views, they would have been tasty. No, seriously, the reason is basically I just wanted this situation to calm down because obviously a month ago a lot of people were heated. There was a lot of, I guess, battles going on between friendships, and I really didn't want to get involved because I know a lot of my friends were kind of upset with what was going on. So I just took a step back, I just took a step back, and now everything's cooled down so I can finally articulate my points with everyone, just hopefully listening. So with the situation cooled down, I'm going to light the fire again, and hopefully we'll all end up losing subscribers. So today I'm going to be talking about why I did the podcast with Alfie Deyes, why Alex was actually on the podcast, my thoughts on the actual podcast, my opinion on JaackMaate, and my opinion on big ol' Alfie Deyes. I know there is a lot to cover in this video, and I am going to try and keep it short and snappy, but you know me, this video is probably going to be around 6 hours long. Now to kick things off, why I did this podcast with Alfie Deyes, because I think it is pretty obvious at this point that I am one of the biggest critics of Alfie Deyes and Zoella and all of their friends in the British vlogging community. But yeah, I've made a lot of videos on these guys and I've got a lot of strong opinions to do with them, and I've called them out for certain situations involving, £1 videos and advent calendars that we're definitely not going to be talking about today for once. But yeah, I've made a lot of videos on them basically, and I stand by 90% of the opinions that I have given in my videos. But honestly, as time went on with my, I guess, career on YouTube, I started to kind of change my mindset on a lot of things. I know, I'm not going to go and say, ooh, I now like Zoella's content. I now love everything Alfie Deyes does. No, I'm not going to say that, but basically, as I progressed on this website, I started to play devil's advocate more. I tried to put myself in other people's situations and perspectives. And that basically all began when Zoella had a little bit of a traditional scandal a few months ago in 2018, where she released a seasonal guidebook. And a lot of people were coming out and saying that they believe that this book is a scam, they believe this book is terrible. But personally, at the time, I saw it and thought, this isn't a scam, this is just a seasonal book. And this is what I basically summed up the situation with. But to conclude this video, I do have my problems with this book, mainly being that Zoella hyped this up to be some form of arts and crafts book, but in reality, we pretty much just got Pinterest put into a book. I don't necessarily think this is a scam, and I think a lot of YouTubers are going overboard with this, because at the end of the day, talking shit on Zoella does get views. We all know it, we all love it. It is funny. I think a lot of the videos made on her are genuinely quite funny. I just disagree. So yeah, the whole premise of that video was pretty much just me saying I believe a lot of people out there go overboard with creators like Zoella, and I am one of these people. I actually am, and it all stems from another video I made after that where Zoella was involved in a situation when a media company printed an article basically saying that Zoella may or may not have breached sponsorship laws when it comes to YouTube and having sponsored deals. And it turned out that whole thing wasn't true. Zoella hadn't breached any laws, but I went ahead and made a video where I basically said, yeah, Zoella may have actually breached that law when she hadn't. And I know this point has been very long and drawn out, but basically what I'm trying to say is that I became a little bit of a hypocrite in that situation, because I said a few months before, people go overboard with Zoella because obviously it gets tasty views, and I became one of those people, and I started to think to myself, wow, I can't do that anymore because I criticize people that do that, and that would just make me a bit of a bellend if I start to do that. So basically, after that situation where I got a few things wrong in a video about Zoella, Alfie Deyes got in contact with me and we had a little chat about the state of YouTube, my opinions on him, my opinions on Zoella, and obviously we disagree on quite a lot. I think that's fairly obvious from the original podcast we're talking about today. But we basically came up with the idea of doing a podcast where we talk about issues on YouTube. We talk about things that have been going on and people's opinions. And that is genuinely what I thought it was going to be. But we'll get onto that in the future of this video. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the reason I did this podcast with Alfie was more of a personal thing. It was more of a challenge to myself, because if I've been saying all of these things about these creators, I feel like I kind of have to put myself in these situations where I can actually confront them. And I started to do that with Gabby Hanna in December, where I interviewed her, but this was kind of like a notch up the level. So it was more of a personal thing for me. And I'm not trying to come off like YouTube's version of Gandhi, and I know I may sound like a bit of an egotistical bastard right now. It's genuinely not that. I'm just somebody that kind of likes to challenge myself. I'm not exactly a confrontational guy. I think you've probably worked out by now. I'm somebody that sits inside, watches movies, plays video games, and, you know, has a slight addiction to salted nuts. Like that's literally it. I wanna fuck on a bitch in this suit. Why was Alex on the podcast? This is something that has been confusing a lot of people, because why was it not JaackMaate? Why was it not Angelika Oles or somebody else? Why was it just not JaackMaate in general and not me? Like, why was I there and not Jack? Now, if I am going to be fully honest, this podcast was originally just meant to be me. Alex wasn't meant to be on this podcast, but I asked Alfie if I could have a friend there, because I'm not really good in confrontational issues, so I wanted one of my best friends there who is pretty open to critiquing people on YouTube. So who better than ImAllexx? And that was my thought process at the time. I'm not really good friends with Angelika Oles or JaackMaate. I've met Jack once, but that was really it. I thought at the time, who better than Alex? Now, I do understand that a lot of people now may say, well, if you're not good in confrontational places, why did Alfie pick you? Did Alfie pick me just to bully me on his podcast because he knows I'm not particularly good in them situations? And if I'm being fully honest, I didn't think about that until the podcast came out. Like, genuinely, that didn't go through my mind. But when I see them points, I can't help but slightly agree. I personally believe it would be a very healthy and good conversation to have JaackMaate and Alfie Deyes just sat in a room together and talking about their issues and their issues with the rest of YouTube. I think that would be a very productive thing, because obviously Jack has a few different viewpoints to me personally, so that would be nice to see. And I can see why a lot of people would prefer Jack in that situation. And I'm not just trying to rim Jack here. I know that Jack is much better in confrontational positions than I am. The guy has been doing this for much longer than me. I'm an anxious little bastard that isn't the best in arguments, really. So when a lot of people were coming out and saying Alfie Deyes was interrupting me, yeah, he was, and I'm not sure what I should have done in that situation. Maybe just called him out on it. That's all I can say, and we will get onto that when I give my full-on thoughts on the podcast. So what I am trying to say in this point is that Alex didn't need to go on the podcast. Alex didn't need to be there, but he did just come on to be a good friend, and honestly, I can't thank him enough, because I would have been even worse on that podcast if Alex wasn't there, because he's a good friend and he was looking out for me, and I'm not going to talk shit on a friend who would do that. With the question of should have this debate been JaackMaate versus Alfie Deyes, maybe it should have been that. And in Alfie's slight defense, Jack did have Alfie blocked for quite a long time, but there are other methods of communication, and I fully understand that Alfie could have got in contact with Jack if he really wanted to. So maybe let's try and get that. Let's try and get that started. Maybe Alfie versus Jack is what we need. I think they really need to see the amount of people that want that. So just comment below, yes, if you want Alfie versus Jack in an actual live debate, or if you don't, just just put no. I'm genuinely interested to see how many people want that. Now, if you thought that point was a bit long and drawn out, we're getting onto the controversial part of the video. I really don't know where to start with this. This was a little bit of a mess in certain parts. I guess where I can start is by saying, to be honest, I wasn't exactly happy that the podcast was cut up, and I don't know if people realize that, but the whole thing wasn't actually released. And I think for a conversation of the magnitude of what it was, you kind of do need a fresh flowing podcast. Rather than cutting it up on specific parts of the podcast, I feel like a fresh flowing thing would have been much healthier for the conversation. Now, to be fair to Alfie, he didn't exactly cut anything dramatic out. There weren't any dramatic points in my eyes that he cut out, but I just think you can't really have a cut up podcast when it's something like this, because it does kind of lesser the conversation and lesser the impact of it. Now, I fully acknowledge the first 40 minutes of this podcast is so bad. I cannot listen to it. I've listened to it once and it's so cringy to listen to, because it felt like, honestly, I was thrown into a lion's den without even realizing what I'm being thrown into. And honestly, it just seemed a little bit too aggressive. But despite what I just said about the first 40 minutes of the podcast, after that, I do honestly feel that the conversation did become quite productive, and we did discuss some actual things that needed to be discussed without an aggressive tone there. And I only wish that the whole podcast was like that, because I feel like people saw the first 20 minutes and they just went. They could not listen to that because it was cringy, it was overly aggressive, and it just did not seem productive. For the majority of the podcast, I believe that I did actually stand by the points I still stand by to this day, such as the £1 videos, such as the advent calendar. I still disagree with them things. But one thing I did backtrack on was the insults. I'm not particularly proud of insulting certain people for no need. And a lot of people may say,
oh yeah, you're a pussy little bitch now. You got a little bit of subs, now you're a pussy.
It's not that, it's just a personal thing. A quote of mine is me starting a video by saying, Zoella is scum, and I don't really run that shit anymore. I don't start up videos by insulting people. I feel like articulating your points in a normal manner of where you can systematically dismantle somebody's arguments with your words rather than insults is a better way to record your videos. And I really am coming off as Gandhi in this video. I'm not trying to be this deep philosophical guy. I'm just trying to explain my points. Now, the one thing a lot of people did seem to notice about this podcast is that I would say one thing and Alfie would just interrupt me. And yeah, that actually was quite annoying, and I'm not good in them situations, and I probably should have called him out on it, because you can't really interrupt somebody when you're having a debate. It's not productive. You see it in politics all the time. They interrupt each other, and it's just annoying. Whenever you hear a podcast and people are talking over each other, it's not productive. It really isn't. I think Alfie does acknowledge that, and I think if we did this with, say, Jack, I feel like the tone would have been different and it would have been much more healthier and productive. Now, obviously, this is the part of the video where I am being more critical of Alfie, and that is mainly because I did rewatch it, as I said earlier, only once, because it was way too cringe to rewatch for a second time. And I do believe that a lot of the points I was called out on were quite nitpicky from Alfie. I think, yes, I did say I no longer agree with some of the things I've said, and then he was like,
okay, that's great, but now I'm going to criticize you for the points.
It's like, that just, I mean, I don't get that. I really don't, and that's all I can really say to that. The reality is, when it comes to YouTube, is that you can pretty much expose any creator you want by just playing an older video of theirs, because we say so much on this website. We upload videos almost every single day, once every 2 or 3 days, so we're naturally going to say so much. And I'm not saying it's wrong to call people out on hypocrisies, but there are some nitpicks out there, some minor quotes, and you really just think to yourself, is there really a need? Because most of the time, a lot of the people just make jokes. I feel like with JaackMaate, 80% of his videos are jokes, because he is a guy that wants to be a comedian. He is somebody that I would consider a comedian. So really, just, we need to stop nitpicking so much. And that's ironic coming from a commentary channel. But I do think for the first 40 minutes of this podcast, Alfie Deyes, for once in his life, was actually a commentary channel. Now, as I said, after the first 40 minutes, in my opinion, the conversation did start to get good, it did start to get healthy, and it did start to get productive. And I feel like if Alfie took that route from the very beginning, it would have been much better and more people would have enjoyed it. And there would have been probably not as many videos on it, to be honest. And I probably wouldn't have been making this video. And I feel like it was more of a situation of where he was angry and he wanted to kind of, I guess, come at somebody that's been coming at him for quite a long time. As you probably have noticed so far in this video, I haven't actually used any quotes or clips from the original podcast, and that's mainly because I do just want to give my opinions and thoughts of how I thought it went, rather than an analysis or a breakdown. If you do want to see that, then you can watch JaackMaate's video, and that really moves nicely into the next point. Okay, I think at this point we all fully acknowledge that there was a little bit of beef between JaackMaate and ImAllexx after the situation. Alex wasn't so happy with Jack, and Jack wasn't so happy with Alex. And I think there's not really much I can say there. They're two friends of mine, and to be honest, it's kind of funny. I know that may sound like an anarchist thing to say, but genuinely, you can't beat a little bit of Twitter beef, can you? That's all I can say. If people wanted me to be like, oh yeah, fuck JaackMaate, fuck ImAllexx, no, it was just funny, and it was a bit childish, sure, but I think at the end of the day, we all are a little bit childish on Twitter sometimes. You know, if me and James Marriott ever ends up having beef, I really do hope the guy fires up a live stream and says something like, oh, Fraser hasn't paid his rent, and then I will say, well, James Marriott, you haven't paid your taxes, and you haven't paid the water bill. That wasn't actually a joke. James, please pay the water bill. The tax thing was a joke, but please pay the water bill, James. We're probably going to lose water soon, and we might die. No, but for real, my full opinion on JaackMaate making the video he did is that he has the full right to make that video. Like, the guy's been criticizing Zoella and Alfie and all that lot for so long now, and if he stopped there because it involved his friends, I think a lot of people would have questioned his integrity, and I think that's fair enough. So I think he has the complete right to. I think what he said was his opinions, and I'm gonna respect that. I'm not gonna lie, at first I was like, damn, this has pissed me off a little bit, but now I look back at it and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't say anything publicly, because, you know, it's just a normal thing. He was making a YouTube video like he does about topics that he does, and I'm not going to disagree with him. So do I have any beef with JaackMaate? No, I don't. And am I just saying this to get onto the Happy Hour podcast once again? Yes, I am. Jack, if you're listening, mate, please get me on for another episode. I would really appreciate that. Now, I know that opinion was very short and swift, but we are now moving on to the opinion of mine on Alfie Deyes. Living my life and I walk in the truth. Wake up still tired, I'm thinking of you. Now, I said the last 2 points were controversial, but this point, I don't think you can really get more controversial on this channel. My opinion on Alfie Deyes. Let's just do this. Honestly, I think Alfie isn't actually that bad of a bloke. The guy has obviously made a few mistakes on YouTube, and obviously a lot of people dislike him. I believe that the guy is very out of touch, like very out of touch, and lately he has become a bit more in touch, and that's cool to see, you know, interacting with creators and stuff. That's wonderful. But yeah, I think it's obvious that them lot of YouTube are quite out of touch with kind of the newer generation of YouTubers like myself. But I don't really think he's the devil's incarnate of YouTube. I think there are a lot worse people out there. Now, don't get me wrong, Alfie Deyes shouldn't have done that £1 video. And also, the clip of Alfie admitting he's not a Tory, probably top 3 moments on YouTube.
Something that I saw floating around on Twitter yesterday was the amount of people that were calling me a Tory. And I just want to 100% clear up right now
that I'm not a Tory.
I mean, that clip will forever be stored on every single hard drive I own. Now, if I am being fully honest, I'm kind of scared of saying that I don't think Alfie Deyes is the worst person, which is pretty mental considering we're all about forgiveness and stuff. But yeah, I don't think he's terrible. I think a lot of people do go overboard with Alfie Deyes. And yes, he's done some terrible things, but as a person, I can't really say he's terrible. There are terrible people on this platform, like Onision, but I just think a lot of people do go a bit overboard. And before you say in the comment section, you're just saying that because you've met him, I did play a clip around 10 minutes ago where I said in October, before I've ever spoken to him, that people go overboard with them too. And I think a lot of YouTubers are going overboard with this because at the end of the day, talking shit on Zoella, does get views. We all know it. We all love it. Now, if you disagree with me on my opinion on Alfie Deyes or any other things that I said in this video, that's great. That's fantastic. And I would love to know your thoughts on Alfie in the comment section. But please, can we just have an actual civilized discussion about this rather than going absolutely mental? And JaackMaate sat in a room and having a conversation with me. I have a pretty controversial opinion and I don't want hotheads to get even hotter. Now, to conclude this situation, I don't actually think I can. I think the only way to conclude the situation is by having Alfie Deyes and JaackMaate sat in a room and having a conversation with each other. Maybe I can be there, maybe Alex can be there, maybe Angelika or some other YouTubers can be there, but ultimately, I do think we need to finally have that discussion between them two, and maybe they want it, maybe they don't. Comment below if you actually do want that though. Comment yes or comment no, because I really think they need to see the amount of people that want it. To conclude this actual video, I just want to say I genuinely really appreciate it if you sat through this whole video and listened to my opinions without going over the top or without getting mad, because at the end of the day, I do have differing opinions to a lot of people, and I'm not just saying, ooh, I'm like other girls. No, everyone has different opinions, and if you can stick by and stick subscribed and you still like me as a YouTuber or as a person, despite disagreeing with my opinion on Alfie or something else, that's great. Like, genuinely, that's what I like to hear. I like to have people that disagree with me. I don't want people just to agree with me on absolutely everything. That's not what I do YouTube for. I do YouTube for things like this, even if they do make me shit scared. Now, that is the end of the video. I know it was a little bit different to what I usually do on this channel, but I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please smash a like if you did enjoy. Let's try and get around 10,000 likes. That would be absolutely wonderful. And also, if you could comment below your thoughts, that would be wonderful. I would love to get a conversation going. I always reply to comments, especially when I first drop the video. And you can also let me know your thoughts at Twitter, at iNabber TV, where I'm always active. It's pretty much an addiction at this point, and also at Instagram, at iNabber, where you can, comment on my photos. Go do that. And before I end the video, I am gonna thank my Patreons. Big thanks to ImAllexx, Alex, Elion20XX, Alex, Anna, Aubriana, Becky, Brianna, Bugger Badger, Caitlin, Charlie, Jakazi, Clarissa, Digidino, Godzilla, Hannah, Harry C, Heather, Henry, Anochi, Arena, Jamie, Chu, Jessica, Joanna, Kalia, Kate, Kath, Karika L, Leah, Lauren, Louisa, Maddie, Michaela, May, Maria, Megan, Mel, Meredith, Michael, Neve, Noku, Olivia, Passenger Shaving, Prince Leo, Quiet, Rockstar, Riley, Sadie, Scrubby, Tabby, the Bratty Booty Guard, Tonji, and Zombie Salza. That was a mouthful. I am very tired. Thank you so much for watching this video, even if you now hate my guts. I love doing these sort of things. Like, genuinely, these are really fun to do. They are actually my favorite videos. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one if you're sticking by, and have a lovely day, people. Peace out.